Samantha Fish, welcome to Australian Musician Magazine.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
By the time you get here in Australia in 2023, it will have been almost 4 years, I think, since you were here last, thanks to the pandemic mainly. Tell us about your lockdown period. How did you cope? What did you do with your time?
Well, I guess I did what everybody did, and I went home and I sat there in kind of shock for a little while, but once I kind of found my footing, I dove headfirst into creating and writing and just trying to find, some kind of muse to get me through the time period. So I ended up writing my newest record, Faster, and I went to the studio with my producer Martin Kiersенbaum, so during pretty much the whole of 2020, I was writing. We were doing things for online streaming concerts, just trying to do some low-key things just to sort of stay, busy and relevant, and just to continue pushing things forward in a way when we really, nobody really could. But for me, I think the most productive escape was definitely writing the next record.
Yeah, so you didn't come up with any crazy new hobbies?
Oh God. I mean, I cooked up a storm. I was cooking the craziest, most random things. I mean, yeah, I got into some hobbies. I bought a sewing machine, which has stayed tucked away in the corner, like literally since the day I bought it. I don't know. I lost my mind and I thought I'm going to start making my own clothes for the stage. And yeah, that never happened. So thank God. I don't know. I had some more failed hobbies than actual, successful ones.
Yeah. As you said, by the time you get here, it'll be almost 4 years. What are your memories of your last Australian tour?
Oh, that was, I mean, it was amazing. We played Byron Bay. And that festival had been such a bucket list event for me, over the years. I've been looking at that lineup since I was a teenager, really. And, so when we finally got to perform at that festival, it feels a little like, oh, I've arrived. Here I am. This is a big deal. Australia is incredible. It's scary in a way. I mean, you guys have some of the most incredible animals out there. I saw these, what are they called? The big fox bats. You know what I'm talking about?
Let's call them fox bats.
They're basically foxes with wings. I mean, they're the biggest bats I've ever seen in my life. You guys got crazy stuff down there. Beyond the animals, you have some of the best people. I mean, we've got some incredible fans down there that I, had never really been able to meet or connect with on a personal level. So, it's like I got a taste of it at Byron Bay, and now I'm ready to go back for the full tour.
Yeah. Any changes to your band from last time?
Yeah, I mean, I've with the pandemic, I ended up stripping the band down again, to kind of just get to the core rock and roll kind of a band. So I've been touring with a 4-piece, and yeah, just the band to support the Faster record, keyboards, myself, drum and bass, and sort of this power 4-piece rock band.
Yeah, been a couple of albums since the last tour, Kill or Be Kind and Faster. How will you approach your set list for this tour?
Well, I mean, I've been doing a lot to support the new record, of course. We try to tailor the show to get, so everybody can kind of get the vibe of where I'm at now. But I still, I've got a lot of albums behind me and, songs that people like. And especially in Australia, these are songs that nobody's ever really heard live because we haven't had the opportunity to play live. So the way I'm planning to approach the set is, yes, we're going to perform, several of the new songs, but to also mix in some old favorites every night too.
Yeah, the current album Faster has a couple of songs with a pop music vibe, talking about hypnotic and crowd control. What are your pop influences?
I mean, it's a pretty vast range. I consider pop music to be a very vast spectrum of artists. I mean, I consider even like the Rolling Stones, when they first came out, were considered a pop group. Now it's classic rock, but back in the day. So I feel like pop music it sort of spans it spans a lot of genres, but I mean, to me, like Hypnotic, a lot of people say they, it kind of has like Prince vibes to it, so that's pop of, a different generation. But, Martin being this kind of powerful pop producer from, the 2000s era and up to now, he's worked with Lady Gaga and Madonna. And so he pulled in a lot of this expertise, I feel like, from that world of how to create a song that's hooky and catchy. And for me, I wanted to root it into something that's bluesy, because that's something that I know, that's like that's what I wanted to do and what I do. I'm trying to think of more pop acts that I love. I mean, my music taste kind of ranges, all different sorts of styles. I feel like I'm fairly rooted in the blues world, and rock and roll, but I love, the Lady Gaga stuff. I do love Prince. I love, I consider some rock and roll bands to be pop acts too, like Talking Heads, and it's probably like a stretch, but it depends on the time period.
Yeah. I suppose having songs like that in your catalog helps with the dynamics of a set list as well.
Yeah, and it just depends on the crowd. I try to read the audience. I try to read the room and decide, where I want to take the show from there.
I always find it interesting to ask artists about how they use their sound check, whether it's just to check levels, or do you try out new songs or even covers?
That's it depends on the day. It depends on how much time we have. It depends on how, quickly the sound check is moved. I always try to utilize our time at sound check, because it's, it just depends on what we've had going on throughout the day, like whether or not we can sit and spend time with some new music to, get it ready for the show. But I mean, I utilize sound check for all kinds of things.
Yeah.
First and foremost, it's to get the sound right for the show. And if you have time left over, then by all means, let's work it out.
Yeah. Has Faster been a tricky album to reproduce? Have you had to change your gear up at all?
Not really, because I sort of went into the studio and was explicit about the fact that I wanted to be able to recreate these songs live. So, and I wanted to be able to do it with like a 4-piece, 5-piece band. So going in there and planning for that, it sort of makes the job a little easier in the live set. We're not like scratching our heads trying to figure out how to create something. But for the most part, if there's a song that I just don't feel like it translates as well live, I might not perform it the way that it is on the record. I might have to, think about it and reimagine it. And I've done that with a couple different songs. They just kind of evolve as you put them in the live set. Yeah. And it's true. I mean, some of them don't necessarily work as well in the live show for whatever reason.
Yeah. Any new toys in the pedal board?
JHS just sent me a bunch of brand new pedals, and I've been slowly introducing them into the board, just because I'm kind of a creature of habit. I find things that I like, and then I don't really deviate too far from them. But they sent me some cool, I think it was called 1976, some different fuzz pedals and delays. I like that company because they're from Kansas City and I'm from Kansas City, so it's my hometown, love affair there. So, and I love their pedals too. JHS is incredible. I haven't really had anything new. I'm holding on for dear life with my Analog Man King of Tone pedal. I've got one of the originals, and she's just barely holding on, but it's like my favorite guitar pedal, so I don't want to get rid of it. And the new ones are totally like, they just are different, configuration of knobs and all that. So I'm trying to hold on to mine.
You've been on tour with Jesse Dayton. I think he was just here in Australia recently. Yeah. How did you two come to be playing together? And I believe you have an album coming out.
Yes. So I met Jesse when I was really, really young. Coming up in Kansas City, he would come through with his band and play this venue called Knuckleheads, which is where I met a lot of other musicians at this venue. But I would go to his shows, and we just kind of knew about each other, years ago. And we just recently reconnected this past year. He came through New Orleans and I saw a show. And it's funny because I've been talking to my manager about doing a side project for years, or, just like a collaborative project with somebody. And we were looking for that right person. I told him, because he came to the show with me, I said, this is the project. This is the guy that we've been looking for and talking about for years, about what, this collaborative thing. And, reached out to Jesse and he was interested. I mean, he's a really interesting musician. He's got such a depth of knowledge and, a history that's, pretty incredible. If you look him up and look at the people he's worked with, his pedigree is like, it's pretty amazing. And, so we just kind of started writing together to see how we would gel. And I mean, I love the guy. It's funny. It's like reconnecting with him after all this time. It's been really very cool, because I think we get along really, really well, and we make really cool music together. And yeah, the new record, I'm pretty excited about. It's very special.
Yeah. Where are you at with an album of your own?
Well, I just, it's funny. I've been writing, and I've been thinking about the next one. It's like I'm kind of I've got all these irons in the fire right now, so it's hard to like focus on a singular album of my own just yet, just because I have these other projects I want to execute first. But I mean, I'm writing always. I'm always writing, and I want to be ready. I hate when I've procrastinated or I've let, the year get in front of me, where I get tied up in touring or, everything else. And then before you know it, it's like, hey, it's time to do one of your records, and you're not prepared. You don't know where you want to, which direction you want to go. So I spend a lot of time just trying to dive inward and keep writing and, focusing on that next step. But right now I'm in that beginning phase of that. So it's very amorphous. If that makes sense.
You don't have to answer this if you don't want to reveal secrets, but are you in the middle of writing a particular song at the moment? And if so, can you tell me about the process you're going through with it?
I don't really have a song at the moment that I'm like in the middle of. Usually I could tell you if I had one that was like halfway through that I'm working out. I'm trying to think of the most recent song that I've written. I think all of those went on my record with Jesse. I don't know the process though. I can kind of dive into that. It might start with a melody, like I think that's the strongest way for me to start songs, is if I have like a hook line, like a melody in my head. You might not know how to apply that. That could, is it a vocal melody? Is it a guitar line? Is it a bass line? I don't know. But it's a starting point that it's that spark of creativity. And I think that hooks are the hardest thing to come by. So if you can start with one, you can build from there, and you have your most special part of the song that people are going to relate to, and the little part that gets stuck in people's heads. So that's really like, if I can start there, it's you're already kind of ahead of the curve. When you start with a bunch of lyrics, sometimes I do like this too, I have pages and pages of lyrics, and then I have to try really hard to find the hook within that, and then force, the melody in there that's so important. Sometimes when you work backwards like that, or frontwards, whichever way you want to look at it, it's harder, I think. But if I can start with that melody, I feel like I'm on the right track.
Yeah. When you're young and you pick up the guitar, you would have had dreams and goals. You alluded to it before when you said you performed at Byron Bay, and that was like a bucket list venue for you. Do you recall any other moments where your dreams were actually realized?
I mean, that was very special that year. And it was pre-pandemic. I remember there were 3 festivals that I always looked at. And that year we got those 3 festivals all in the same year. And it was just kind of like teenage Samantha was pretty much doing backflips, because, that was a pretty big accomplishment. That was Byron Bay Jazz Fest and Telluride in Colorado, which I've always kind of looked at those festivals like they're pretty pretty big tastemaker festivals. I mean, even just last week, I got to play Shepherd's Bush in London, and it was a great crowd, and that's a massive accomplishment. I felt like I was on cloud nine, to go to London and get to play for a big crowd at a historical venue. Especially after the pandemic, we'd moved those tickets so many times because we had to. I was so worried that I was like, are people going to show up? And the fact that they did is like, oh, okay, that's massive relief, first of all, but also a huge accomplishment. I don't know. I mean, it's hard for me to see those things in the moment because it's like I'm so focused on executing the show and putting on the show. I have to like fall back and look at things in a different perspective. But I've had a lot of really great things happen that I see in hindsight, like, wow, that was really cool. In the moment, maybe I didn't see it like that, but in hindsight, you see things, okay, things are going well.
Do you remember the first time you had a crew load in and load out for you? I'm
sorry?
You remember the first time you had a road crew load in your gear? You didn't have to do it yourself?
I don't remember the first time, but I'm from Kansas City, right? So I grew up in the Midwest, and it's like, I think I've just been instilled with this kind of, I always have my hands on something and I'm trying to help and work and all this. It's weird for me sometimes to see people loading the gear because I'm like, oh, that's my stuff. But it's, it's part of the deal. It feels kind of cool, but also I still feel a little strange about it, but it is, I guess it's good. I'm not throwing my back out.
So what are you looking forward to most about the Australian tour?
Ooh, just honestly, the people. Because I only got a little taste of it when we came through to play Byron Bay. We were only there for a couple days, and I didn't get to interact as much. You know how big that festival's massive. I guess I'm just really looking forward to seeing Australia. I really didn't get to see that much of it when I was there. Seeing that, interacting with the people, just trying the food. I've never really tried the food. I don't even know what kind of food you guys eat down there. But it's all kind of like a mystery. I'm very excited. It's exotic.
Samantha, it's been great to chat again, and we look forward to seeing you down here.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to it as well.